Welcome to the Museum of Philosophical Art. I am your tour guide for this evening, and I would appreciate if everyone could please be respectful of all art pieces we have on display for you today. Let's start off with our first painting entitled Monopoly Man.
How am I supposed to respect this art piece if it is blatantly disrespecting the very country we are living in right now? This Monopoly man is joyfully dancing on top of an American flag. How unpatriotic.
Actually, I think this work of art was bold enough to address the truth of American monopolies that still exist today. To me, this painting deserves a high level of respect for being brave in the face of a nationalist like you.
Okay, we are all allowed our own opinions, so if we could just focus on the artwork instead of social political ties, then that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. The principle used to construct this artwork, paired with its simple yet rustic design, clearly gets the point across to the viewer. This painting showcases messy painting splatters that adds a grimy appeal, alluding to the disordered union that monopolists come to contribute to.
Whatever that means.
Might I interject? I have been working as a janitor at the museum across the street for 40 years. I've seen paintings come and go, but the ones that get the most attraction are the ones that can captivate an audience. Some may disagree with what the painting is representing, but if you can read the story expressed by the artist, then you have in fact appreciated the art. I want you to imagine you have a you have on what Rawls calls a veil of ignorance, where you don't know your social status, your nationality, gender, talents, or race. Does the painting look different? Are you bound to your opinion simply because of your sense of self?
I guess the painting would look different. How does that matter, though?
It matters because it changed your mind about certain beliefs that may be clouded by your lack of ignorance.
Well, isn't the point of controversial art to express without words the opinions of one group, successfully pushing a narrative to all who appreciate it?
There is no point to art. There may be motives, but never a point. The reason why we appreciate art is for personal emotion, regardless of what others intend to use their emotion for.
I love this discussion, but let's look at the next painting, shall we? This one is titled Obama.
Okay, now this is clearly pushing the narrative. How can I appreciate this artwork without associating Barack Obama with hope?
Well, like you said before, respectable paintings should be bold in the face of diversity.
Well, I guess, but nothing about this is bold other than the color choices. A lot of Americans are supportive of Obama. There's not that much adversity there. Not that many still recognize existing monopolies, so the first one had to be braver.
I think you have the wrong idea of art.
Remember that no one can have the wrong idea of art. It's up to personal interpretation. I do love this passionate discussion, but we must keep moving.
Well, I think that the painting uses a colorful style to associate hope with the colors of the flag and American freedom.
If you ignore the fact that the painting is depicting a famous politician or any associated propaganda, then you can appreciate the message of hope free from the narratives of others. But that is up to you whether you choose to see the underlying narrative. Even with a motive or a narrative, anyone can appreciate the message of hope.
Let's move on. On the left is a hyperrealistic painting by Gioacchino Pacini of an orange rose covered in dew. The painting on the right is a surrealist landscape painting by Max Ernst, titled The Eye of Silence.
I really like the hyperrealist painting.
Why do you like it?
I value the artistic skill of the artist and like how they managed to make it look so realistic.
Oh, that's interesting. I like the surrealist one because it challenges reality. It offers something new. Not that I think the realist one isn't beautiful, but in my opinion, if I wanted something that was realistic, I would just take a picture. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I personally just prefer a painting that offers something new.
That's all right. I took no offense. I think that's an interesting perspective. I prefer the realist one because I find it truly beautiful. Nature on its own is beautiful, and recreating in a skillful way through the medium of paint makes it even more beautiful, in my opinion.
Since we're arguing on which is more beautiful, I have a question for you all. What, in your opinion, makes something art? Or in other words, what defines art?
That's a good question. I believe that art is anything that expresses human creativity. The act of making art is what, well, makes art.
I would say that art can also expand from reality and challenge it. It offers something new and creates a new perspective. I like what you said about the idea of art lying mostly in the creative process, and I think I agree with you on that. That's part of the reason why I really like the surrealist painting because it's so creative. It causes me to think, and that's part of the reason I like it so much because it's moving.
Yes, creativity definitely has a lot to do with it. Before I explain my own thoughts, does anyone else want to add anything?
Yes, I would. I think that what makes something art is how the viewer sees it. Both of you had opinions on which art piece you liked better, and that's okay, because we decide what is beautiful. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. We can see art from various perspectives. It depends on how the viewer perceives and allows himself to be affected by that particular piece of art. We must look for deeper meaning and decide what a work of art means for ourselves.
I don't want to be left out of this conversation. You all gave valuable insights. I think that we can truly define art. How can we truly know anything? Maybe art is our attempt to find meaning in this world.
Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. I love to ask visitors this question because it allows us to think beyond what we initially assume to be true. The beautiful thing about art is that it allows us to think and question our reality. By asking these questions, we become philosophers who are lovers of wisdom. Art provokes the question of beauty and truth, which are things lovers of wisdom value. Plato is a philosopher who theorizes that we are stuck in a cave and wanting to escape. Everything we know is simply reflections on the cave wall, but if we escape the cave, we will see things more clearly and see things for how they really are. Plato believes we must come to understand the highest forms of things. For example, our expressions of art are merely the many or opinions, while the form would be beauty, which is the immaterial idea outside the cave. In another sense, every work of art is the many, while beauty is the form. The beautiful thing about art is that it transcends us into something beyond ourselves. I like to imagine the beautiful works of art are the mirrors in the cave that simply give us a glimpse of things outside of it. All of this is simply something to think about. That's my favorite part of being a tour guide in an art museum. I get to see how the pieces of art affect everyone and the wisdom we gain from appreciating it. I believe part of being a philosopher is being able to appreciate the art because art teaches us a lot about ourselves.
Yes, this has been an amazing discussion, and I love the idea that we are all philosophers gaining understanding through art. After this discussion, I feel that I value the surrealist painting more than I did initially. I can see how it really goes beyond what I originally assumed art to be. Personally, it reminds me of a dream I once had, but can't recall.
I also believe that I have gained a greater sense of appreciation for both paintings. They both reflect beauty in different ways, and we can all individually find meaning and beauty in them.
I also love this conversation. I think that I learned a lot from hearing what everyone had to say. I still stand on my opinion though, that art can't be truly defined, but it's definitely something for me to think about.
And that's perfectly okay. We never actually defined art, but simply gave our own perspectives and discussed so we can grow closer to true wisdom. That's part of being philosophers, is being able to ask questions and challenge your initial ideas of things and appreciate the things around us. And maybe there's no true answer, but simply a mix of everything we said. We gain wisdom by understanding other people's perspectives on things. Thank you all for this discussion and for appreciating these works of art. Before we move on, I would like to ask you all one more question, this time about ethics. A lot of times we talk about what is art and what it means, but have you ever thought about whether art can be right or wrong? And to push it further, do artists have a responsibility for what they create?
I think they do. Art can influence people's thoughts and emotions, major or minor. So when artists create harmful or offensive things, it negatively affects others. For example, if artwork promotes violence or stereotypes, it can reinforce unfair or wrong ideas, and that doesn't seem right to me.
Understandable, but artists are people and should have the freedom of expression without worrying about outside opinions. That's what makes art art. Sometimes art is meant to challenge society or make people uncomfortable so that change can happen. Throughout history, movements have started because of people, specifically artists, who have advocated and spoke out about injustice through their art.
That's true. Art can benefit society by raising awareness about problems like discrimination, inequality, or even environmental issues. It inspires people to take action, but at the same time, some people may feel hurt or disrespected by offensive art, especially if they believe their culture or beliefs are being attacked.
Guys, this is really cool. So some people believe removing offensive art is the right thing to do, and others believe keeping the art on display is important so we can learn history and understand past mistakes. How do you all decide what to display without offending anybody?
Excellent points. These are all ethical questions in the art world today. We often question if it is better to protect people from harm or to protect the freedom of expression and speech. But also, is it right to remove art from some consider offensive, or does doing so limit creativity and truth? That's above my pay grade.
Personally, I think balance is important. Artists should have the ability to create whatever they want, but they should also think about the impact of their work. Real art should not intentionally harm people, but tell a story.
And the audience also has the responsibility to try and understand the message behind the art before they judge it. Sometimes something that seems bad at first can actually teach an important lesson.
From my experience, outside of art ethics is not always simple. What one person sees as harmful, another person might see as meaningful or necessary. Different values lead to different opinions. So it's cool to see that represented through art too.
Exactly. Art is good because it allows one's perspective freedom while challenging others' beliefs, making real challenge. There isn't always clear answer, and that's what makes this question so
Well
interesting.
said. Art shapes ideas, emotions, and culture. And by discussing these questions, we learn to think carefully about what's right and what's wrong in so many other aspects of life. That's one of the greatest values of art. It encourages us to reflect on our choices and consider how our actions affect others. This painting here, The Moral Bridge, shows a beautiful starry night and a red bridge extended across the river while the moon reflects off the water. But did you know this is not an original?
Wow.
This story reminds me of the ethics philosophy of Immanuel Kant, who believed in the moral duty of honesty, no matter what. According to Kant, lying is always wrong, even if intentions are positive.
So Kant would believe that you guys have a moral responsibility to tell us the truth about this painting.
Yes,
So if an artist creates a fake painting and sells to take care of his family, Kant would say that this is wrong.
exactly. Kant believes that lying is not okay, whether the painting looks real or fake. If someone knowingly deceives others, they violated a moral duty to tell the truth.
But what if he was trying to take care of his family?
I get that makes sense. It shows that ethics is not just about what happens, but what is right.
Yes, for Kant, it's more about intention rather than end result. I really appreciate everyone's participation in this thoughtful discussion, and I hope you all enjoyed your time appreciating these works of art.